The Xylo's Intergalactic Tactical Academy hung suspended in the void of space, a gleaming superstructure of titanium alloys and carbon composites that housed the most prestigious military training facility in the known galaxy. Inside its reinforced walls, over 300 species from across the stars sent their brightest to train, compete, and forge the bonds that would one day maintain peace across the vastness of space. Alex Ryder stood in formation, trying not to flinch as Zorgan cadets to his left and right cast sideways glances at him. At just under 6 feet tall with a lean but muscular build, he appeared almost fragile compared to the hulking forms surrounding him. The Zorgans, with their naturally armored exoskeletons and imposing frames, made Alex look like a child standing among adults. Earthling, one of them muttered under his breath, the translator barely picking up the contempt in his voice. Deathworlder. That word again. Alex kept his eyes forward, staring at the back of the cadet in front of him. He'd heard it whispered since the day he arrived at Xylo's Academy 3 months ago. Deathworlder, as if being from Earth was some kind of disease. Cadet Ryder. The harsh voice of Major Krell cut through the murmurs. The Krillian instructor stalked forward, compound eyes fixed on Alex. Your stance is improper. Again, Alex shifted his weight, tried to adjust the heavy combat armor that encased his body. The standard-issue exoskeleton was designed to augment strength and protect vital organs, but seemed to fight against his movements rather than enhance them. The servos whined in protest as he attempted to settle into the required combat stance. Too slow, Krell barked, mandibles clicking in frustration. A Vroskin slug moves with more purpose. This is the 5th time today, cadet. From the front of the formation, a Zorgan cadet named Ragnar turned his massive head slightly, mandibles parting in what passed for a smirk among his kind. He was the unofficial leader of a group that had made Alex's life particularly difficult since orientation. The armor is calibrated for standard anatomy, sir, Alex tried to explain, keeping his voice level. I've requested adjustments, too. Excuses, Krell cut him off. The same armor is used by cadets from over 200 different physiologies. The problem is not the equipment, Cadet Ryder. The problem is you. A ripple of amusement passed through the formation. Alex felt heat rising to his face, but maintained his composure. Yes, sir, he replied, knowing further attempts at explanation would only make things worse. Major Krell moved on, but Alex could feel the eyes of the other cadets still on him. All except for Lyra, a slender Xylosian female whose crystalline skin caught the light as she glanced back at him with what might have been sympathy. Unlike many of the others, she had never shown contempt for Alex's human heritage. The combat drill that followed was predictably disastrous. Clad in the ill-fitting armor, Alex moved like a drunken mechanical toy while his classmates performed the exercises with varying degrees of efficiency. The Zorgans, naturally, excelled, their bodies already evolved for combat, the armor simply enhancing their innate abilities. Pathetic, Ryder, Ragnar said during a water break, loud enough for others to hear. Why do they even let Deathworlders into the academy? Your kind barely discovered faster-than-light travel 2 centuries ago. Alex ignored him, focusing instead on adjusting the mechanical joint at his elbow, which had been pinching his skin for the past hour. He groaned, used to such comments. Earth, with its high gravity, extreme weather patterns, tectonic instability, and aggressive predator evolution, was classified as a death world in the galactic database. Most species assumed humans must be naturally vicious and dangerous to have evolved in such conditions. Yet paradoxically, they also seemed disappointed that Alex didn't appear particularly imposing. It was the final exercise of the day that pushed everything to a breaking point. A combat simulation against automated drones, requiring quick reflexes and precise movements. Alex was paired with Ragnar for the drill. Try not to get in my way, human, Ragnar growled as they entered the simulation chamber. The exercise began well enough. The training drones fired harmless stun pulses that the combat armor could easily absorb, but a direct hit would register as a kill in the scoring system. Alex managed to avoid the first few shots, even landing a successful counterstrike on one of the drones. Then, midway through the simulation, Alex's armor locked up. The right leg froze mid-stride, sending him stumbling forward. The left arm servo-whined and then went silent. He was effectively immobilized on one side. "Sir, my armor's malfunctioning," Alex called out, trying to maintain balance on his one working leg. From the observation platform, Major Krell didn't pause the simulation. "Combat conditions are rarely ideal, Cadet. Adapt and overcome." Alex barely had time to process this when a stun pulse from a drone hit him squarely in the chest. His armor registered the hit with a loud beep, but the simulation continued. Ragnar, meanwhile, was efficiently dispatching drones on the other side of the chamber, completely ignoring Alex's predicament. Another hit, this time to Alex's back. Then another. The simulation scoring system kept tallying the strikes against him. Within moments, he had registered enough fatal hits to have died several times over in a real combat situation. Only when the exercise timer finally ran out did Major Krell shut down the simulation. The drones powered down and returned to their charging stations along the wall. Alex stood there, half frozen in his malfunctioning armor, sweat pouring down his face, humiliation burning in his chest. "Ragnar, excellent performance," Krell announced, checking the scores on his datapad. 27 eliminations, no hits taken. Perfect execution. The Zorgan straightened, his armored chest swelling with pride. "Ryder," Krell continued, his compound eyes narrowing. 0 eliminations, 23 hits sustained. The worst performance I've seen in 15 cycles. "Sir, the armor. Damaged Academy property through improper use," Krell interrupted, mandibles clicking in disapproval. "Equipment is to be respected, Cadet. You will report to Maintenance Bay after hours and assist with repairs for the next 5 cycles." Alex bit back his response. He was almost certain Ragnar or one of his friends had tampered with his armor before the exercise. The timing was too convenient, the malfunction too sudden and complete. But he had no proof, and accusations would only make a situation worse. "Yes, sir," he said instead, keeping his face carefully neutral despite the rage boiling inside. "Dismissed," Krell announced to the group. "Except you, Ryder. Report to maintenance immediately for armor removal and diagnostics." As the other cadets filed out, Ragnar deliberately brushed past Alex, knocking him off balance. "Careful, Deathworlder," he whispered. "Seems like you're not so deadly after all." It took 2 technicians nearly an hour to extract Alex from the locked armor. By the time he was free, the maintenance bay was nearly deserted, the Academy shifting to night cycle operations. Alex was left alone to clean the disassembled components of his armor as punishment, each piece needing to be meticulously wiped down, scanned, and prepared for recalibration. As he worked, his mind churned with frustration. This wasn't the first equipment malfunction he'd experienced, and it certainly wouldn't be the last as long as Ragnar and his crew continued their campaign against him. The armor, meant to protect and enhance, had become just another obstacle, another weakness for others to exploit. Alex paused, holding a chest plate in his hands. He stared at his reflection in the polished surface, seeing the determination in his own eyes. Something had to change. He couldn't continue like this, fighting against both prejudice and equipment designed for anatomies vastly different from his own. An idea began to form in his mind, dangerous, potentially career-ending, but also liberating. He looked around the empty maintenance bay, at the dozens of armor suits hanging on their racks, at the training schedule displayed on the wall terminal. There was a basic obstacle course training session scheduled for free practice tomorrow. No mandatory armor requirement was listed for basic drills. The regulations stated that appropriate protective gear must be worn during all training exercises, but nowhere did it specifically mandate the full combat exoskeleton for basic courses. Alex smiled grimly. He had found his loophole. The next day, Alex awoke before the Academy's artificial dawn, his muscles still aching from yesterday's humiliation. He skipped breakfast in the mess hall, avoiding the usual stares and whispers, and instead headed directly to the training facilities. The basic obstacle course was empty at this early hour. Alex had specifically chosen this time to practice what he had in mind without an audience. Instead of heading to the armor distribution center, he went to his personal locker and pulled out his basic physical training gear, a lightweight, form-fitting bodysuit designed for exercise rather than combat. He stretched methodically, feeling the freedom of movement without the cumbersome armor pressing down on him. His muscles, toned from Earth's higher gravity, felt responsive and powerful. He began running through the obstacle course, initially at half speed, testing his natural capabilities. Without the armor, Alex moved fluidly. He cleared hurdles with ease, navigated the climbing walls with agility, and wove through the suspended pendulum obstacles with precision. Each run-through, he increased his speed, pushed himself harder, began to trust his own body rather than relying on mechanical assistance. He was so focused on his training that he didn't notice the slender figure watching from the entrance until she spoke. "That's impressive," Lyra said, her crystalline skin catching the light as she stepped closer. Alex froze mid-motion, momentarily embarrassed at being caught. "Lyra, I was just training without armor," she finished for him, her multifaceted eyes studying him with curiosity. "It's an interesting approach. Unorthodox." Alex tensed, waiting for the inevitable criticism or warning. Instead, Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. "Your natural movement patterns are quite efficient. Have you considered officially requesting an exemption from standard armor protocols? And give Krell another reason to fail me?" Alex shook his head. "Not likely. Then what's your plan?" She gestured to his unarmored form. Alex hesitated, then decided to trust her. "There's a basic drone evasion drill scheduled for free practice this afternoon. The regulations don't explicitly require full combat armor for basic drills." Lyra's eyes widened. "You're going to attempt it unarmored? That's reckless? Stupid." Alex offered. "I was going to say bold," she corrected, "but also potentially dangerous. The training drones still pack enough punch to cause injury. Less dangerous than wearing armor that freezes up in the middle of an exercise," Alex countered. "At least this way, if I fail, it will be on my own terms." Lyra was silent for a moment, considering. "The others won't understand. They'll see it as proof that humans are either reckless or weak." "They already think that," Alex said, returning to his stretches. "Maybe it's time I showed them what a Deathworlder can really do." Word spread quickly through the academy. By the time the afternoon free practice session began, nearly 30 cadets had gathered around the drone evasion course. Most came to witness what they assumed would be a spectacular failure. A human attempting a combat drill without armor was practically suicide in their eyes. Alex approached the course entrance, wearing only his basic training suit, a thin layer of fabric that offered no real protection against the stunned pulses of the training drones. He could hear the murmurs of the gathered cadets, see Ragnar and his Zorgan friends already laughing among themselves. "What is the meaning of this, Cadet Rider?" The voice belonged to Lieutenant Vasek, a Syrian instructor with significantly less antagonism toward Alex than Major Krell. His feathered crest rose in concern as he spotted Alex's lack of armor. "Free practice session, sir," Alex replied formally. "I'm working on agility drills. Without regulation protection." Vasek's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "That's highly irregular. The regulations state appropriate protective gear, sir," Alex recited, having memorized the relevant passage. "For this specific drill, I believe this is more appropriate for my physiology." Lieutenant Vasek looked uncertain. "This is not standard procedure, Cadet. Neither is having my armor sabotaged during official exercises, sir," Alex said quietly, so only Vasek could hear. The lieutenant's crest flattened slightly in understanding. After a moment, he nodded slowly. "This is free practice time. You may proceed at your own risk, but I will be monitoring closely and will terminate the exercise at the first sign of excessive danger." "Thank you, sir." Alex stepped onto the course platform. The drone evasion drill was relatively simple in concept. A series of hovering drones would fire low-powered stun pulses in patterns of increasing complexity. The objective was to navigate from one end of the chamber to the other without being hit. Most cadets considered it a basic exercise when wearing armor. Without armor, it was something else entirely. Beginning basic evasion drill, level 1, the system announced. Cadet, ready position. Alex settled into a stance completely different from the rigid, armor-oriented position taught in classes. He balanced on the balls of his feet, knees slightly bent, arms loose at his sides, ready to move in any direction at a moment's notice. The gathered audience fell silent as the first drone activated, its targeting systems locking onto Alex. Commencing in 3, 2, 1, the drone fired its first pulse, a streak of blue energy aimed directly at Alex's chest. In standard armor, a cadet would simply absorb such a basic shot without concern. Instead, Alex pivoted sharply to the right, the pulse passing harmlessly through the space he had occupied a split second earlier. A murmur went through the watching cadets. The drone adjusted, firing again. Alex dropped into a crouch, the second pulse sailing over his head. Then, as the drone prepared a third shot, he sprinted forward, changing his rhythm unpredictably, weaving laterally as he advanced. Level 1 ended with Alex reaching the far end of the chamber untouched. The system automatically increased difficulty. Commencing level 2, multiple drone engagement. 3 drones activated simultaneously, their firing patterns coordinated to limit escape routes. Alex didn't hesitate. He moved continuously, never staying still long enough to present an easy target. His movements were fluid, almost dance-like, utilizing rolls, slides, and sudden direction changes that would have been impossible in the standard armor. The watching cadets grew increasingly quiet, their initial amusement replaced by fascination. Even Ragnar had stopped smirking, his mandibles set in a tight line as he watched the human navigate the course with unexpected grace. By level 4, with 7 drones firing in complex patterns, Alex had developed a sweat-soaked rhythm. He read the targeting indicators on each drone, predicted their firing solutions, and moved accordingly. Once, a pulse came so close it singed the fabric on his shoulder, but he twisted away before it could make solid contact. "He's actually doing it," Lyra whispered to Gron, a massive Gromic cadet standing beside her. Gron, usually silent, nodded his boulder-like head in grudging respect. Alex completed level 5 without a single hit, his breathing heavy but controlled, his movements precise despite growing fatigue. The system prepared to advance to level 6, a difficulty most armored cadets rarely attempted. Enough of this farce. A harsh voice cut through the chamber. Major Krell strode in, mandibles clicking in obvious displeasure. "What is happening here?" Lieutenant Vasek stepped forward. "Free practice session, Major. Cadet Rider is demonstrating an alternative approach to the evasion drill." Krell's compound eyes fixed on Alex's unarmored form. "This is a violation of safety protocols." "With respect, sir," Alex spoke up, still catching his breath. "The regulations don't explicitly require full combat armor for basic drills during free practice. They only specify appropriate protective gear, which in this case. Do not quote regulations to me, Cadet," Krell snapped. "I helped write them." The room fell silent. Alex stood his ground, refusing to be intimidated. After a tense moment, Krell's mandibles clicked in what might have been reluctant consideration. "Complete the current level," he finally said. "Let us see if this alternative approach has merit or is merely reckless endangerment." Alex nodded and returned to the ready position as level 6 initialized. 9 drones activated, their targeting systems blinking ominously. This level incorporated random movement patterns and variable firing rates, specifically designed to overwhelm predictive evasion. Commencing in 3, 2, 1. What followed was unlike anything the Academy cadets had ever witnessed. Alex moved as if gravity itself had a looser hold on him than others. When a cluster of drones concentrated fire, he didn't just evade. He used their coordinated attack against them, creating momentary safe corridors through their firing solutions. Halfway through the course, a drone scored a glancing hit on his left leg. The stun pulse wasn't direct enough to register as a kill, but Alex visibly winced at the impact. Rather than slowing him down, however, the hit seemed to sharpen his focus. He adapted instantly, compensating for the slight numbness in his leg, using shorter strides but increasing his lateral movement. When Alex crossed the finish line, having sustained only that single glancing blow, the chamber remained eerily silent. Then, from somewhere in the back of the gathered cadets, a slow clap began. Others joined in, the applause spreading until even Gron's massive hands were creating thunderous approval. Major Krell didn't join the applause, but neither did he immediately shut it down. His compound eyes studied Alex with what might have been new assessment. "Interesting approach, Cadet Rider," he finally said when the applause died down. "Unorthodox, but not without merit for your specific limitations." It wasn't exactly praise, but coming from Krell, it might as well have been a commendation medal. As the cadets dispersed, many cast backward glances at Alex, their expressions ranging from curiosity to newfound respect. Ragnar stalked away without comment, his Zorgan companions unusually subdued. Lyra approached Alex as he toweled off the sweat from his face. "That was remarkable," she said, genuine admiration in her voice. "I've never seen anyone move like that. Earth's gravity is about 1.3 times stronger than the Academy's artificial standard," Alex explained between deep breaths. "We naturally develop different muscle density and reaction time. The armor was actually limiting those natural advantages." "You've changed things," she said simply. "The question is, what happens next?" What happened next exceeded even Alex's expectations. Over the following weeks, Alex's unarmored performance became the talk of the Academy. During free practice sessions, cadets would gather to watch the human navigate increasingly difficult courses using only his natural abilities. Some instructors frowned upon his methods, but others, including, surprisingly, Lieutenant Vasek, began to take interest in the potential applications. The Deathworlder technique, some cadets began calling it, without the usual derision the term once carried. Alex wasn't naive enough to think one impressive display had erased centuries of prejudice. Ragnar and his inner circle had simply shifted their antagonism to less public venues, occasionally sabotaging Alex's equipment or spreading rumors about primitive human tactics. But something had undeniably changed. During a tactical theory class, Alex was actually asked by an instructor to demonstrate his evasion methods to the entire group. Gron, the silent Gromik who had previously kept his distance, began joining Alex for early morning training sessions, curious about adapting some of the techniques to his own bulky physiology. Most significantly, Lyra became not just an ally, but a friend. Her analytical mind helped Alex refine his movements, identifying patterns in drone targeting systems that even he hadn't noticed. In return, he helped her develop greater mobility despite her crystalline physiology, which tended toward rigidity. "You've created your own combat style," she observed one day after a particularly successful training session. "A human style." "Not exactly," Alex corrected her. "This isn't unique to humans. It's about working with your natural physiology rather than trying to force it into standardized equipment. It could work for any species with the right adaptations." 3 weeks after Alex's initial demonstration, Major Krell summoned him to his office. As Alex entered, he noticed a formidable figure already seated across from Krell's desk. Academy Commander Xyler, a venerable Syrian whose distinguished military career was legendary throughout the quadrant. "Cadet Rider," Krell acknowledged, mandibles clicking softly. "Commander Xyler has taken an interest in your unconventional training methods." Alex stood at attention, heart pounding. "Sir." Commander Xyler studied Alex with all 4 of his eyes, his feathered crest shifting slightly as he considered the human before him. "I've reviewed the footage of your performances, Cadet," Xyler said, his voice deep and measured. "Impressive adaptation to circumstances. Very resourceful." "Thank you, sir." "However," Xyler continued, "unchecked innovation can lead to chaos in standardized training environments. The Academy's protocols exist for reasons beyond mere tradition." Alex's heart sank. This was it, the official reprimand, possibly even expulsion. That said, Xyler rose from his seat, towering over both Alex and Krell. Adaptation is the cornerstone of effective combat. The inability to recognize valuable new approaches is a failure of leadership, not of the innovator. He turned to Krell. Major, I believe we have an opportunity here to expand our understanding of species-specific combat capabilities. Krell's mandibles twitched in what might have been discomfort. Commander, I have prepared a proposal for a controlled test of cadet riders' methods under more rigorous conditions. Alex blinked in surprise. Krell had prepared what? Excellent initiative, Major, Xyler nodded approvingly. Cadet Rider, you will participate in a special evaluation exercise 1 week from today. The Gauntlet, as the senior cadets call it. Alex had heard whispers of the Gauntlet, a legendary series of combat challenges normally reserved for final-year cadets, designed to push them to absolute limits before graduation. Sir, Alex said carefully, the Gauntlet is typically undertaken by cadets with years more training than I have. Indeed, Xyler agreed, which is why you will attempt a modified version, specifically designed to test the efficacy of your unarmored combat style against traditional methods. This is not punishment, cadet. It is evaluation. As Alex left the office, his mind reeled with the implications. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about challenging the fundamental approach to combat training that had dominated the academy for generations. News of Alex's upcoming gauntlet spread through the academy like wildfire. Opinion was sharply divided. Some cadets believed it was a brilliant opportunity to showcase innovation, while others saw it as a setup designed to humiliate the presumptuous human once and for all. Lyra and Gron immediately volunteered to help Alex prepare, dedicating every free moment to training. The gauntlet has 3 phases, Lyra explained as they studied tactical simulations in the Academy library. Environmental hazards, direct combat against other cadets, and finally a specialized opponent of some kind, usually a combat. Instructor or advanced training construct. Gron, whose species communicated primarily through subvocal rumbles, added his rare verbal insight. No one passes all 3 perfectly. Not expected to. Test is adaptation, not perfection. That's actually reassuring, Alex said. So what's our approach? We train for each phase specifically, Lyra said, her crystalline fingers dancing over the holographic display. I can help with the environmental hazards. My species evolved in crystalline cave systems with natural traps. Gron's expertise in hand-to-hand combat will be invaluable for the second phase. And the third phase? Alex asked. Lyra and Gron exchanged glances. Unknown variable, Gron rumbled. Always different. The week passed in a blur of intensive training. Alex pushed himself beyond exhaustion, knowing that the gauntlet would demand everything he had and more. Rumors circulated that Ragnar had been selected as part of the cadet opposition team for Phase 2, which surprised no one. The night before the gauntlet, Alex sat alone in his quarters, mentally reviewing everything he had learned. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. Enter, he called, expecting Lyra or Gron with last-minute advice. Instead, Lieutenant Vasek stepped in, his feathered crest lying flat in what Alex had learned indicated seriousness. Cadet Rider, Vasek said quietly. I came to offer some context for tomorrow's evaluation. Sir, Vasek looked uncomfortable. You should know that there's been significant debate among the faculty regarding your methods. Major Krell was initially adamant that they be prohibited entirely. Alex wasn't surprised, but the confirmation still stung. What changed his mind? Commander Xyler, Vasek said simply. He pointed out that combat effectiveness trumps tradition, and that if your methods prove superior in certain contexts, the Academy would be remiss to ignore them. The lieutenant paused. Tomorrow will not merely test you, cadet. It will test an idea. The outcome may influence Academy training protocols for generations to come. No pressure, Alex said with a grim smile. Vasek's crest lifted slightly in amusement. Indeed. Rest well, cadet. You'll need your strength. The day of the gauntlet arrived with the Academy buzzing with anticipation. The event was normally closed to general viewing, but Commander Zyler had made an exception, allowing cadets to observe via live stream to the main auditorium. This, more than anything, underscored the significance of what was about to occur. Alex arrived at the designated preparation area to find Lyra and Gron waiting for him. "Final check," Lyra said, inspecting his lightweight training suit, modified with minimal protective padding at vital points, but otherwise allowing complete freedom of movement. "Remember, conserve energy in Phase 1. Phase 2 will be where Ragnar tries to take you out." "Angles and leverage," Gron rumbled, his boulder-like head nodding. "Size means nothing if balance is compromised." "Thanks, both of you," Alex said sincerely. "Whatever happens in there, you will succeed," Lyra interrupted firmly. "You've already changed minds. Now go change the system." Major Krell appeared at the entrance to the preparation area. "Time, Cadet Rider." As Alex followed Krell down the corridor toward the gauntlet chamber, the Krillian instructor spoke without turning. "You understand the significance of today's evaluation?" "I believe so, sir." "Then you understand that this is not personal," Krell continued. "This is about maintaining the standards and effectiveness of an institution that has produced the finest tactical minds in the galaxy for over 3 centuries. Before Alex could respond, they arrived at a massive set of doors emblazoned with the Academy insignia. Krell finally turned to face him. "Prove your method's worth, Cadet, and I will be the first to acknowledge it. Fail, and you return to standard protocols without complaint. Is that understood?" "Perfectly, sir." The doors slid open, revealing the gauntlet in all its intimidating glory. The chamber was enormous, divided into distinct sections, each representing one of the 3 phases. The first section resembled a nightmare obstacle course, filled with moving platforms, concealed trap mechanisms, and combat drones floating ominously above. The second section was a clear arena with raised platforms and various tactical cover elements. 6 cadets in full combat armor waited there, Ragnar's massive form unmistakable among them. The third section was obscured by an opaque energy field, its contents a mystery. Commander Zyler stood on an elevated platform overlooking the entire chamber. A small group of senior instructors flanked him, along with various monitoring equipment and medical personnel. "Cadet Alexander Ryder," Zyler's voice boomed throughout the chamber. "You will attempt the gauntlet to demonstrate the efficacy of your combat. Methodology. Standard safety protocols apply. The exercise will be terminated if you sustain injuries beyond acceptable parameters. Are you prepared to proceed?" Alex took a deep breath, centered himself, and replied with more confidence than he felt. "I am, Commander." "Then begin. Phase 1 commences now." The moment Alex stepped into the first section, all hell broke loose. Platforms began shifting unpredictably. Walls rose and fell, creating an ever-changing maze, and the combat drones activated simultaneously, their targeting systems locking onto him with mechanical precision. In standard armor, a cadet would typically power through this section, relying on the protection to absorb drone fire, while pushing forward as quickly as possible. Without armor, Alex had to take an entirely different approach. He moved continuously, never presenting a stationary target. When drone fire converged on his position, he was already elsewhere, having anticipated the targeting algorithms. He used the shifting architecture to his advantage, momentarily sheltering behind rising walls or sliding under lowering barriers. In the observation area, the instructors watched with professional interest. Even Major Krell leaned forward slightly, compound eyes tracking Alex's progress. "Remarkable spatial awareness," one instructor commented. "The human is actually using the drones against each other." Another noted as Alex deliberately maneuvered so that 2 drones ended up in each other's line of fire. In the main auditorium, cadets watched the live stream in stunned silence. They had never seen anyone navigate Phase 1 with such fluid precision. Occasionally, a collective gasp would rise when Alex narrowly avoided what seemed like certain disaster. Halfway through the course, a drone caught Alex with a glancing blow to his shoulder, sending a jolt of pain through his arm. He didn't stop, didn't even hesitate. He simply adjusted, using his other arm more prominently while the injured one recovered sensation. By the time Alex reached the end of Phase 1, he had sustained only that single minor hit, a performance that rivaled the best armored cadets in Academy history. His breathing was controlled, his movements still precise despite the exertion. Phase 1 complete, Commander Zyler announced. Proceed to Phase 2 when ready. Alex took 30 seconds to center himself, then stepped into the arena where Ragnar and 5 other cadets waited in full combat armor. This would be the true test, actual combat against opponents who specifically wanted to see him fail. Begin, Zyler commanded. Immediately, the 6 armored cadets spread out in a standard encirclement pattern. They moved with the confidence of those who believed overwhelming force would quickly end the contest. What they failed to understand was that Alex had spent weeks studying their movements, their tendencies, the limitations of their armor. While they saw only a vulnerable human without protection, he saw 6 adversaries whose bulk and standardized training made them predictable. Ragnar was the first to charge, mandibles spread wide in anticipation of an easy victory. Alex waited until the last possible moment before sidestepping with liquid grace, using the Zorgon's momentum against him. As Ragnar stumbled past, Alex struck precisely at the junction between armor plates at the back of the knee, a small vulnerability Lyra had identified during their preparation. Ragnar's leg buckled unexpectedly, sending him crashing to the ground with a roar of frustration. The other cadets attacked, more cautiously now, trying to coordinate their efforts. Alex never engaged directly, never tried to match strength for strength. Instead, he became like water, flowing around their attacks, striking at joints and sensor arrays, disrupting their coordination. One by one, the armored cadets found themselves outmaneuvered, their attacks hitting nothing but air while Alex's precisely targeted strikes gradually wore them down. He took hits, a glancing blow to his ribs from a Thraxian cadet, a near-miss energy pulse that singed his leg, but kept moving, kept adapting. In the observation area, the instructors were now openly amazed. "He's targeting armor weaknesses with surgical precision," one remarked. "Look at how he uses their own mass and momentum against them," another added. Classic leverage principles applied to modern combat. Even Major Krell seemed impressed despite himself, mandibles clicking in what might have been grudging approval. In the arena, only Ragnar remained functional, the other cadets having been eliminated by Alex's precision strikes to their armor's vulnerable points. The Zorgon was enraged, his attacks becoming wilder, less controlled. "Stand still and fight, Deathworlder," he bellowed, charging forward once more. Alex didn't respond verbally. Instead, he waited until Ragnar was fully committed to his charge, then dropped flat to the ground. As the Zorgon's momentum carried him overhead, Alex struck upward, fingers finding the critical junction where the helmet connected to the torso armor. A precision strike, and Ragnar's systems went into emergency shutdown. The massive cadet crashed to the ground, his armor locked in safety mode. Alex rose to his feet, breathing heavily but still combat-ready. Minor injuries dotted his body, bruises forming, a small cut above his eye dripping blood, but nothing that impaired his functionality. Phase 2 complete, Zyler announced, and there was a new note in his voice, respect. Proceed to Phase 3 when ready. This was it, the unknown variable. Alex took a full minute to recover, knowing whatever waited behind that energy field would be the greatest challenge yet. When he stepped through, the field dissipated behind him, revealing the final challenge to all observers. Gasps echoed through the chamber and the auditorium beyond. Standing in the center of the arena was Major Krell himself, but not as Alex had ever seen him. The Krillian instructor wore an advanced combat exoskeleton that enhanced his already formidable physical capabilities. From mechanical arms extended from the back of the suit, each ending in a different training weapon. "The final test, Cadet Rider," Krell announced, his voice amplified by the suit systems. "Survive for 3 minutes against a superior opponent." No cadet had ever been expected to defeat an instructor in Phase 3. Merely lasting the full time was considered success. Against Krell in that suit, even that seemed impossible. "Begin," Commander Zyler ordered. Krell moved with shocking speed for his size, the exoskeleton eliminating any biological limitations. The mechanical arms whirled into action, creating a deadly zone of continuous attack around him. Alex immediately recognized that direct evasion wouldn't work. The attack density was too high, the coverage too complete. Instead, he needed to disable at least some of those arms. Krell pressed forward, expecting Alex to retreat. Instead, the human darted directly toward him, ducking under the first sweeping arm and rolling past the second. Before Krell could adjust, Alex had slipped inside his defensive perimeter and struck at a hydraulic coupling on one of the mechanical arms. The coupling sparked, and the arm seized momentarily. Not disabled, but impaired. Krell responded by activating the suit's short-range repulsor field, sending Alex flying backward. Alex landed hard, but rolled with the impact, immediately regaining his feet. 1 minute down, 2 to go. The next 60 seconds were a blur of desperate evasion. Krell had adapted, closing the gaps in his defense. Alex took hits now, glancing blows that individually wouldn't stop him, but collectively began to take their toll. A strike to his shoulder sent numbing pain down his arm. Another caught his leg, slowing his movements. In the observation area, medical personnel began preparing to intervene. The combat was reaching dangerous intensity. With 30 seconds remaining, Alex made his final gambit. Instead of continuing to evade, he charged directly at Krell once more. The Krillian, expecting another attempt at the mechanical arms, raised his defenses accordingly. But Alex had a different target. As Krell's weapons converged on his position, Alex dropped into a slide that carried him beneath the instructor's guard. With every ounce of remaining strength, he struck at the exoskeleton's main power coupling, a vulnerability he had noticed during maintenance duties weeks earlier. The suit's systems flickered momentarily, just long enough for Alex to roll clear of the immediate danger zone. When Krell recovered and turned to continue the assault, the 3-minute timer expired. Phase 3 complete, Commander Zyler announced, an unmistakable note of astonishment in his voice. The gauntlet is concluded. Alex remained in a ready stance for several seconds, his body running on pure adrenaline. When he finally relaxed, the accumulated injuries and exhaustion hit him all at once. He swayed on his feet, darkness creeping into the edges of his vision. Medical personnel rushed forward as Alex collapsed, his consciousness fading. The last thing he saw was Major Krell removing his helmet, compound eyes fixed on him with what might have been respect. Alex awoke in the Academy Medical Bay, his injuries treated and mostly healed thanks to advanced regeneration technology. Lyra sat beside his bed, while Gron stood nearby, his massive form somehow managing to look relieved despite his species' limited facial expressions. "You did it," Lyra said, her crystalline features catching the light as she smiled. "Alex, you completed the gauntlet. No first-year cadet has ever done that before, armored or not." "How long was I out?" Alex asked, his voice rough. 6 hours, Gron rumbled. Academy still talking. Nothing else. Before Alex could reply, the medical bay doors slid open. Commander Zyler entered, followed by Major Krell and several other senior instructors. "Cadet Ryder," Zyler said formally, "your performance in the gauntlet has been thoroughly analyzed by Academy staff. Do you feel well enough to discuss the results?" Alex struggled to sit up straighter. "Yes, Commander." Zyler nodded to the others, and Major Krell stepped forward. Alex tensed involuntarily, expecting criticism despite his success. Instead, Krell's mandibles clicked in what Alex now recognized as grudging respect. "Your methodology demonstrates significant tactical advantages in specific combat scenarios," the Krillian stated, "particularly for species with natural agility and reaction times exceeding mechanical enhancement capabilities." Alex blinked in surprise. Coming from Krell, this was practically effusive praise. Commander Zyler continued, "The Academy has always prided itself on evolving with new tactical developments. Your demonstration proves that our standardized approach has limitations we had not fully considered. One of the other instructors, the Cien with metallic skin, added, "We are implementing an immediate supplementary training program based on your techniques, open to cadets of all species who wish to explore unarmored or lightly armored combat options." Furthermore, Zyler said, "You will assist in developing this program, drawing on your unique perspective. This will count toward your advanced tactical studies credit." Alex was speechless. This went far beyond mere acceptance. It was institutional validation. "The Academy thanks you, Cadet Ryder," Zyler concluded formally. "Your willingness to challenge established doctrine at considerable personal risk exemplifies the innovative spirit we seek to cultivate." As the senior staff departed, Lyra squeezed Alex's hand excitedly. "Do you understand what just happened? You've changed Academy doctrine that stood for centuries." "Not just me," Alex said, looking at both Lyra and Grawn. "We did this together." 3 months later, the Xylos Academy inaugural adaptive combat class was in full swing. 24 cadets from 15 different species participated, each exploring how their unique physiologies could be leveraged instead of standardized. Alex, now a teaching assistant for the course, watched as the Cien cadet demonstrated a metallurgical defensive technique impossible in standard armor. "Excellent adaptation, Cadet Sorvin," he commented. "The resonance properties of your dermal layer provide natural protection against sonic attacks." Across the training hall, Major Krell supervised another group working on hybrid techniques, combining selective armor elements with natural capabilities. The Krillian had surprised everyone by volunteering to co-develop the new curriculum. "Ryder," Krell called, gesturing Alex over. "Demonstrate the joint lock counter for these cadets." As Alex complied, he noticed Ragnar observing from the sidelines. The Zorgan had been uncharacteristically subdued since the gauntlet, his previous antagonism fading into something like wary respect. Now he stepped forward. "Instructor," Ragnar addressed Krell formally. "Request permission to join the adaptive combat program." Krell's compound eyes shifted between Ragnar and Alex. "Granted, Cadet. Report to Cadet Ryder for initial assessment." As Ragnar approached, Alex expected some remnant of hostility. Instead, the Zorgan simply nodded. "My species relies too heavily on natural armor," he said stiffly. The gauntlet demonstrated limitations in that approach. It wasn't quite an apology, but Alex recognized it as the closest thing to one he was likely to get. He nodded in return. "We start with baseline physiological assessment," he said professionally. "Every species has unique advantages, even Zorgans." That evening, Alex stood at the observation deck overlooking the vast starfield beyond the Academy. Lyra joined him silently, her crystalline form glinting in the starlight. "What are you thinking about?" she asked after a moment. "How one small change can affect an entire system," Alex replied. "I just wanted to find a way to pass combat drills without armor. I never expected all of this." "That's how evolution works," Lyra said. "Small adaptations that prove advantageous spread throughout the population. You introduced a beneficial mutation to the Academy's tactical evolution." "Very poetic," Alex smiled. "Very accurate," she corrected. "The next class of cadets will include 15 humans, did you know? The highest number ever admitted to Xylos." Alex hadn't known, and the information filled him with unexpected pride. "They won't face the same challenges you did," Lyra continued. "They'll enter an academy already beginning to understand that Deathworlder isn't an insult. It's simply a different set of evolutionary adaptations with its own strengths and weaknesses." In the distance, a ship departed from the Academy docking bay, its engines flaring briefly, before it disappeared into the void. "So what's next for the revolutionary Cadet Ryder?" Lyra asked, a teasing note in her voice. Alex looked out at the stars, thinking of all the possibilities that now stretched before him. "Adaptation," he said simply. "It's what Deathworlders do best."